Hey boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of Art at our virtual club. My name is Kayla Turner and today we're going to do something really cool. But before we get started, I have to give you the disclaimer. Before you do anything art related with our club today, please make sure you have permission from your parent or guardian and/or supervision from that parent or guardian. Let's get started. So today I'm wearing one of our old chili cook-off shirts. This is what I can paint in. I can get paint on it, no problem. I highly suggest and encourage you to wear an old shirt or something that you don't mind having paint on. If you don't want to get it on your clothes and you do have aprons, I definitely want to recommend putting on your apron. I, for one, don't need this one and it won't fit me because I have on my shirt. So let's get started with our supply list. What you're going to need today for our project is photo glossy paper, okay? And this brand, I believe, is HP Premium Plus that I'm using. Very important stuff because when you're putting the tape down for our project, which I will explain later, in order for it to lift properly off of the paper, you want to have that gloss finish. If you do try to use copy paper or construction paper, it will not work. I've tried it a million times over with both regular copy paper as well as construction paper. So save yourself the trip. Definitely invest in this lovely paper. You can also do this on canvas as well. Highly suggest using blue painter's tape. That's the best tape that I've used so far doing this project. However, today I have white tape. Okay, so our final product will look something like this. Again, this is Miss Kayla's draft, but as you can see here, definitely going in a good direction. The way we're gonna get this is by applying tape on our glossy finished paper first, and then I'll show you how to apply your colors. So let's get started. We're gonna put this reference over here to the side and my extra paper, just in case I make a mistake, over there. So on your supply list, like I mentioned earlier, that photo glossy paper. I take that half cut and strip and I'm gonna cut it right where the table meets that cut at, right? Look how easy that was. Here's my strip. And again, I know it's not exactly perfect, but hey, I gotta use what I have. So the first thing you wanna do is set your borders. Now, if you're looking at my photo, I have a lot of space around the edges. You don't have to have that much space if you don't like it. But again, it's just whatever your preference is. And this one, I put mine right along the edge. You do not have to put yours as close to the edge. Just be aware that your paint line is gonna start right here, right below that tape, okay? And I'm gonna repeat the same process. I'm just gonna keep cutting my strips. I'm gonna set my other border at the bottom. Like so. And you can already see the imperfection of my tape, but again, that's what art is about. Creative expression. The paint. Now, I like this little strip thing, but again, if you have one that has the wooden stick or you're using a sponge from around the house, all those things are fine, all right? And I'm gonna have a lot of paint over my hands. If you do not want paint on your hands, please make sure you put gloves on. Very important. All right, I have a couple of paint brushes, preferably the thicker ones, so that it's faster for your application and your holes. I dip them in a little bit of water, so all I'm doing is using my extra construction paper. Even if you don't have that, you can even wipe it on your, whatever's on your table that you're keeping guard from the paint. And have a nice little household item here, a measuring cup. There's water in there. I should actually probably move that right there. All right, so I have my sponge ready for after I put the paint down, have my paint brushes to apply the paint, and now let's get started. So, kind of like when you're eating, you should bring the food to your face. Yes, bring the paint to the paintbrush, so that you're not doing this number here and paint is getting all over the surface area. Okay, so bring the paint closer and you can literally dab them how you feel like it. I would say be a little generous on your application of the paint. Do not actually paint them. We're literally going to dab and we're going to use this sponge to smear after the fact, okay? So, in no specific order or fashion, I'm gonna just start with one color, and that was red. And I'm gonna put them in random spots. I can put red wherever I want. And notice how they're kind of like globs. It's not anything that I have in any specific fashion. The thinner the paint, you know, the harder it will be to do the sponge part. So you definitely want to make sure you leave paint on there and a little bit of a glob. That's why I said be generous with that paint application. Okay, there we go. Put a little bit of water on my paintbrush. Clean it off. Get that excess water out of there. And we're gonna go on to the next color. I'm gonna go with orange and do the same thing. You could even almost in a sense glob it, if you will. This is super fun. So therapeutic to do art. Imagine doing this outside as well. Nice beautiful day, birds chirping, or you can use this as an indoor activity if it's not so nice outside to occupy the time and attention of your young ones. And this is a fun activity for all ages. Elementary, middle, high, college, anybody, young adult, young at heart. Now moving on to the blue. I'm doing the same thing like so. I'm just blobbing my paint on there. Even if your paint ends up touching something else, that's fine. If it touches another color, won't hurt, totally okay. No law, no sin broken there. I'm gonna do the same thing. Definitely please make sure you get permission if you are using a measuring cup. I, for one, do not want to walk in my home and discover my measuring cup that I use for cooking being used to dip a paintbrush. So please make sure you get permission. Now I'm just working my way around my plate of paint, and I'm literally just globbing it on there. I want to see different paint in different spaces of this. And in those hard to reach spaces, like I said, if you just goop it up on there, you can fill in the space if you really don't want to put your paintbrush smeared with another color. while you have one color on the paintbrush. Like I said, no harm, no foul there. Looks like a bit of a gloopy mess right now, but I promise you, as we progress, this will start taking a beautiful form. I want to make sure I get this really, really, really wet there. And as you can see, my extra pieces of paper to the side are coming in handy for that reapplication without having to literally wash my brush every single time. Now, some might say my paper is white, why would I use white? You will trust me on this white when I tell you it's going to work. Miracles, signs, and wonders for you. And look how that white is kind of running into that purple. I actually mixed one intentionally on another plate. But don't be afraid to let it run a little bit. You know, not a crime, I promise. All right, I think I'm good with that one. So I've used my whole plate, and so far, I haven't had a lot of paint on my hands. This is awesome. I promise you it was not this clean the first time I did it. So do not be fooled by my lovely video now, and embrace your messiness of creativity if yours does not look as clean as what it does on screen right now. All right, now I'm moving to my next plate. I've used orange, red, purple, white, and blue. Now I have a little bit of yellow and green to use. Paintbrush to scratch my nose there. Nice little insert. And we are just gonna go for it. Oh, I love this yellow. Such a vibrant, pretty color. And notice how I don't even care if it's over other colors. Again, there is no format for how your paint must be laid on the paper. If you have, even if you don't have paintbrushes and you're using, this is acrylic paint, by the way. I have not used this with tempera paint, but I'm sure it can be used as well, just to let you know what kind of paint I'm using. And if your paint comes in those little squeezable bottles, the original project I saw doing this had those original bottles. I don't have squeezable bottles. I have actual industrial paint bottles, so we poured them on the plate. But if you are using the squeezable ones, you make dots on the paper with that bottle, okay? Just so that you're not in the dark if you are not using paintbrushes. So I think I'm good with yellow. Used a pretty generous amount there. I'm gonna move to green. I'm splashing. And I actually brought a second paper underneath this one when that one gets kind of wet, which it did, so. Major key, always have at least 2 of everything. Especially in art. And I'm gonna move on to my green. Oh, this green is super, super vibrant. The key definitely is to find the places that still have your white sheet of paper showing and fill those spaces. But you don't have to, because there is a lot of paint. Remember, we were generous in our paint. So you also don't want this big gloopy blob of a paint mess. I want to say plaint so bad. Forgive me. And notice how I'm just kind of also using a little bit of a shake method there. So plate down. And we are in business. So now I'm gonna use the one I've already been using to mix my paints. And it's almost time for a water change as well. I wanna make this Nice, beautiful, velvety smooth, light red. And you may even still see a little bit of traces of green because I was just using this paintbrush for green. But get a nice little mixture in there to get that different color. Oh, look how pretty that is. And you don't just have to use white with any random color. That's if you want to make it lighter. You can be your own scientist in testing out your own colors. All right, so we are down to our final colors that we're gonna add on here before we do our smudge and smear. Nice. Now we're going to the orange. We're gonna do the same thing. Mix, mix, mix. Mixing our orange and white mixture. Changed our water. I was getting like that milky dark color, which kind of was defeating the purpose of using it to clean my brushes. So definitely needed to switch the water out. Now I've got this nice, beautiful orange. And I'm hunting for those spaces that still show white on my paper. And I want to try to fill them as best as possible. Oh, that's such a beautiful color. Homemade. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. And we're going to, actually I'm going to smear most of that paint off my brush so that I can save the integrity of my water. I wiped a little bit of my paint off on my scrap sheet of paper first before putting it in the water, and that helped a great deal clean my brush. I haven't even touched my second brush. I just have that there just in case, kind of like my insurance policy. Like I said, always have two of everything readily available, just in case something doesn't go as planned while you're making your project. So now I'm mixing blue and white, which is gonna give this nice, beautiful aqua color. Not so much a baby blue, but definitely softer than the natural blue. And I'm gonna pull from the center since I still haven't mixed that outside. I don't wanna risk getting red in there, but I can if I want to. Again, your colors can be mixed however you feel, and I'm hunting for those empty spots. This is actually going to be the last color I do because we did purple and white earlier by incident, so I don't even need to touch my last plate there. Alrighty. So now we're at the point where we can smudge and smear. Earlier we talked about the sponges that we could use. I'm just gonna start with a little small strip until I need to cut more, if I need to cut more. And it came from this. Again, the standard one may have a wooden stick, so it comes in at Home Depot, your local paint store, or hardware store that you can find these from. Even if you want to use your finger, you can use the tip of the scissors, you can use a comb, you can use this. I mean, you really don't have to use the sponge. It can be smeared in whatever way you please. So, art of the sponge is to go from top to bottom, okay? Or corner, diagonal, however you please, right? And I'm literally just dabbing. I got a little bit of a paint chunk in there, so I just naturally move that paint chunk down towards the tape strip so that when it's time for me to rip up, I can do that. So look at my first little quadrant without running my paint too much. We've already started smearing. And I'm gonna dab that excess off a little bit and go on to my next area. And you really wanna just up and down. Oh, that's pretty. And make sure every part of your actual photo paper has paint covered by it. This big strip of green paper came in handy for, you know, your little excess paint that you may want to smear off. So very important that your protective gear is massive so that you can do that.
Okay, do me a favor at this point, just say, do the same thing for all the quadrants.
Okay.
Because right now we're almost at 30 minutes just for this.
Okay, perfect.
I'm worried we're going to lose people if they have to wait too long to see the finished product.
Okay, okay.
So just say, do all this for all your next quadrants, and then I'll fast forward to when you start peeling off the...
And you want to make sure you just do your blotting for every single quadrant. This is where your hard work is paid off at, from all that color mixing. All right, and now we're at the point. Maybe important to invest in a glove as well. This is what that post smear looks like, but pre-pull of the tape, okay? And I'm just gonna use my shirt. I know it's probably unconventional, but again, this is my personal paint shirt, so I can use that. All right, I'm gonna search for the strip that's on the uppermost level, because if you pull a strip that's underneath a strip of tape, it's going to kind of change the integrity of your photo, and you don't want that. You want all of the beautiness of what you've done to come out and really, really be showcased. So I'm going for my top strip, and I'm just gently, as I hold down my paper, because you don't want to just be ripping the strip. Boom. I think it goes without saying that it still looks super, super nice. So you see it ran a little bit there and over here, but it still looks super cool. I'm really proud of it. So, all right, everybody, I really hope that you had a great time doing another fun art project with us through our virtual club. Again, my name is Kayla Turner, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.